This is our keynote, one of our keynote presentation from two ladies, Heidi Gibson and Khadijah. Thibodeaux, I think it's pronounced. The title is Smithsonian Science for Global Goals, Supporting Youth to Discover, Understand, and Act for a Sustainable Future. So, Heidi Gibson is a manager of the Global Sustainability Series of Smithsonian Science Education Center since 2020. Develops community research guides for Smithsonian Science for Global Goals. She's passionate about youth empowerment. She authored From Ideas to Action, Transforming Learning to Inspire Action on Critical Global Issues, and co-authored articles on global sustainability. Her diverse background includes a master's in international education, service as a U.S. Foreign Service officer, civics teaching, and lab research. Oh, and Khadijah Thibodeaux, I think it's pronounced correctly, is a science curriculum developer at the Smithsonian Science Education Center, joining in 2023 to develop community research and action guides for Smithsonian Science for Global Goals. Previously, she was a middle school science teacher serving a historically underrepresented and under-resourced community. Her role in the classroom and experience developing curriculum for a global audience ignited her passion for creating engaging, accessible, and inclusive science learning experiences. She holds a master's degree in urban education from Southern Methodist University and a bachelor's degree in molecular biology from Pomona College. So I'll call both on stage. Welcome, Khadija. Welcome, Heidi. I hope I pronounced your your last name correctly. Uh, if I didn't, I'm sorry. Uh, Thank you for being here. It's an honor. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Claudette. It's a real pleasure to be with you all today. We have been looking forward to this very much. And as Modest introduced me, my name is Heidi Gibson. I manage the Global Sustainability Series at the Smithsonian, and I'll let Khadijah just say hi before we go ahead and kind of get started.
Hi, my name is Khadijah Thibodeaux, and I'm a curriculum developer on the team with Heidi.
Okay. And can I just make sure, is this looking clear for everybody else? It looks a little fuzzy for me. Okay, then I will go ahead and keep going. Oh, no, it's blurry. Okay. I wonder why. I'm gonna stop sharing and try again. I'd like you all to be able to see our slides, hopefully. All right, yeah. This. Okay. Ah, better, right? Yes. All right. Fantastic. Thank you all. I appreciate you going on this journey. Oh, it's still blurry for some of you? Interesting. All right. Okay. I'm going to keep going. If it gets blurry and you can't actually read what's on the thing, what's on the slides, let us know and we'll try and troubleshoot behind here. But I am so thrilled to be with you, whether it's morning your time or afternoon or evening. And we are really here to talk to you today about an incredibly important topic, maybe the most important topic, which is the future. Thinking about what we're hoping to do with you today is really think about what is coming up in front of us and where our sort of collective journey is going to take us. And one of the things I want to start off by saying is it is very easy to get distracted from that long-term vision. We all have about 1.5 million of things right in front of us that are distracting us, including my cat who just came up to see us. Perfect example, perfect timing, Miss Miko. But really, things that make us think just in the short term. But we need to get beyond that, to where we remove those distractions and really look towards the horizon. Really think about that long-term future. So what I'm hoping that we're all going to do today a little bit is look up from that short-term distractions in front of us and really look out and think about where we're going. If this is our road forward, what do we want to accomplish? And we need to solve those short-term problems, and the engineering has an incredible role to play, but to get where we want to go, the first thing we have to figure out is where that is, and then we need to figure out the problems of how to get there. And that's what we're really going to be talking about today, how to go on that journey together and with the young people that we serve to really use engineering education to take us to the place that we want to get on that horizon, that shared future that we all shared. And that future is not just sort of my future or Khadijah's future or the future of the people on the line or the future even of the individual students we serve. It's really a collective future. It's that shared future. We're all connected and so are our futures. And that future is sort of always coming closer, whether we're paying attention to it or not, whether we're looking to the horizon or not. So to me, engineering education has this incredible role to help us chart that path to the future that we want. So I want to start off by thinking, what is that future? What is that future we want? And this is where I'm loving that we're having some people in the chat kind of participating. This is a wonderful opportunity for you to participate. I'd love you to stop and think for a second. What do you want to be part of your future, our future? I'm going to have you put it in the chat and hold on 1 second, and then I'm going to say waterfall. And then we're going to hopefully have all of them sort of go really fast. So take a second as I'm speaking and just kind of think, what do you personally want your future to be? What do you want the future of your family to be? Your local community, your nation, your global community? What is on that horizon? As we're going on this journey, where do we want to arrive? This is something called futures thinking, and it's something we think is really important because you don't really get to the place you want to go unless you're trying to get there. So I'm going to give you about 10 more seconds and we're going to waterfall, and I see people already doing it, which is great. But I think it's really important to think about with our futures that there are always things that somebody else wants and maybe things that they want that you don't necessarily want. So really trying to understand the collective vision of what that future should be. And if you haven't already, please waterfall, put it in the chat. And I'm seeing, oh, this is so fun. I see things like peace and diversity, humanity, stability, thriving rather than surviving. Really, I love kind of the details from like, I want this to we want this, and all of those things are so important. So really thinking about those, smarter, greener technologies and sustainability. And I know that the people here today are the people we want to be talking to. So thank you so much for being here. Keep it coming in the chat. I'm going to keep going. But this is, I'm so inspired just seeing this. And I hope that you're not just listening to me, but you're also seeing all of your colleagues here attending this today are working towards this future. And that is really what is important, is that we are collectively working towards a shared future. So one of the things we do is we have students think about this. And they, like you, come up with these amazing ideas. And one of the things we try to do is to help them think through where are the holes in their thinking. So we often think about ideas in sort of 4 different ways. What's sort of the environmental future? What are the problems we see? What do we want that to look like? Socially, Are there, education, interacting with each other, our cultures, our health? What does that look like? Economically, how do we make sure that we have the financial resources we need to meet our needs? And that ethical piece. How do we balance sort of the different things that we all want in a fair way? And one of the things we really think is that by thinking about these different aspects, we can start building this idea of a collective future. One person might be more focused on social, somebody else might be more focused on economic. But when we can see that why, we can start building this shared idea of the future. So we've been asking students this for about the last 8 years. What do you want our shared future to be? And here are some of the answers that they came up with. Everything from, less food waste and mental health assistance to better places to live and no pollution. And one of the things we have noticed as we do these things is how connected these ideas are with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So the UN, as many of you know, because I saw some of it in the chat, started asking this question about a decade ago. And they heard from over 1 million people around the world about what they wanted their shared future to be. And that really guided the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And that shared vision and the vision from everyone we collaborate with continues to sort of drive us, really thinking about if this is our horizon, if this is where we want to go, if this is sort of a consensus about what a thriving planet and people look like. And to me, that's really where engineering has this beautiful role to play in this process, because we all want this future, right? We want this future that is sustainable, but there are a lot of problems to solve. And the great news is engineering is basically problem solving. That is what you do. So as I think about the UN Sustainable Development Goals, every single goal, I think there are so many roles for engineering. I look at, say, I've just chosen 3 here. Say good health and well-being. That's everything from biomedical devices and the amazing engineering that has gone for our human health, but also things like civil engineering and safe infrastructure, and all of that goes into good health and well-being. Affordable and clean energy is everything from those mechanical engineering, designing incredible, wind or hydropower, to electrical engineering, managing the grid. And I know all of you are experts and you're probably like, yeah, and these 10 other fields in engineering as well. So do be thinking about those. Life below water. And to me, we were talking about biological systems engineering, environmental engineering, but also that chemical engineering side of things. How do we really manage water? And I think all of these disciplines of engineering have such an incredible role to play in determining that shared future. And we want young people to be a part of it. Young people are 1/3 of the current global population. And when we make these choices about our long-term future, where our horizon was, they're going to be on that road the longest. So they are going to have the most to gain or lose. Their role is absolutely critical, as is yours, because we want to help young people transform into problem solving. So I think not everyone will be an engineer, unfortunately, but everyone can learn to think like an engineer. Everyone can learn to solve these complex real world problems. And this is why I think engineering and that sort of K-12 space is so important, to really understand how we move from here's a problem, but let's define it. Let's understand that problem. Let's think about different ways we could, approach it. Let's select a solution and prototype and apply and iterate. That beautiful engineering process of, not just sort of throwing darts at a dartboard in the dark, but really trying to follow a process of investigating ideas and then following them and prototyping and engineering. Exactly, Jennifer. Really thinking about how this process can help people solve problems at any in any field. And we really think that as educators, we're really problem-solving coaches. So trying to move away from, as educators, we're sort of holders of knowledge that we then pass on to the next generation, and more we're really trying to coach them in how to solve those problems themselves. Our role of educators in the digital age, information is easy to come by, but building the skills and knowledge to understand what that information means, to use it, to think critically, is where our efforts are most needed. So a few years ago, we partnered with the Gallup Foundation to ask teachers in 5 different countries about sustainability in education. And this is a pretty small slide. If you want, you can scan the QR code. It'll take you to the whole report. But the interesting thing we found out is teachers across the board, over 80% in every single country we asked, think sustainability is important. They think it's something that they need to be discussing with their students. What becomes hard, you'll see in those 2 graphs to the right, is when they having enough time and having the knowledge to do it. And so this is where we think it's really important to kind of lean in. How do we build this time? How do we embed problem solving into for the future into every young person's journey? How do we basically engage young people as problem solving? And I think one of the main things that we need to think about is it starts with the problems that we choose. We need problems that are authentically connected to lived experiences. Problems need to feel authentic. That means they're not manufactured, they're not just for school, they're real, and they're not problems we've already solved. So, and then we want those problems to feel connected to the lives of students so that that problem relates to something they've witnessed or experienced. And in terms of our work, this is where we come in as the Smithsonian Science Education Center. Some of you may have had the opportunity to interact with the Smithsonian before, or even come to one of our museums. We are the world's largest museum education research complex. 21 museums, education centers, research centers, a zoo. And what is so wonderful about that is we bring together that sort of like history and culture with science. And our goal is really to bring that out to the world, to help individuals who are trying to talk about that within their own spaces. We really think that our role in supporting that shared future we all want to get to is, how do we catalyze those conversations? How do we help make those happen? And we do that in a few ways. We have incredible researchers all over the world collecting data. We have them working on implementing holistic approaches to environmental conservation. But the role that Khadijah and I play is, how do we think about education on how sustainable solutions can benefit people and nature? That sort of shared future for life on a sustainable planet. Within our Smithsonian Science Education Center, we have 3 separate things we're thinking about: innovation, inclusion, and sustainability. And to me, this really sits in all 3. How do we think differently, innovate for the future? How do we make sure that it's truly shared, that everyone's included? And how do we make sure that it will last for all of us? How do we make it sustainable? I want to point out that our mission is transforming K-12 education through science in collaboration with communities across the globe. And that collaboration piece is what I most want you to pay attention to, because that to me is the whole point. It is a shared collaboration of us trying to get to that future that we want. So we are really here today collaborating with you to support youth in authentic and connected problem solving. The project we work on is called Smithsonian Science for Global Goals. And one of the things we do is develop community research guides for young people aged 11 to 18 based around the UN Sustainable Development Goals. These are all free and able to be used by the public, and they include all sorts of different disciplines, including engineering. We'll be talking about them as we go. Coming up in addition to those wonderful guides we just saw before, we have 4 more guides. And these in particular, I think are going to be wonderful engineering guides, is really thinking about zero barriers, that idea of access and how we use engineering to promote access and accessibility. Innovation, which really thinks about climate innovation and really focuses on that engineering process. Agriculture and water. And I will say this at the end, but just as a teaser, we do have a virtual booth. And if you want to come and talk about these guides, we would love to talk to you more about them as we go. So to date, we've reached over 8 million students and trained over 70,000 educators in 118 countries, which I say not to brag, but to say, please join us. We would love to have you be part of this movement to really transform education for young people. These guides are all free and available for download. They're translated all at least into English and Spanish, but some in Arabic or French. We really think about accessibility, so optimizing for screen readers and guide planners. And then we also have free professional development available. And we'll once again share, if you're interested in that, we can share some more about that at the end. But our approach is really thinking about how do we design these educational experiences to support that transformation into problem solving. We follow something called the Global Goals Action Progression. And what I think is so important about this is it starts with the individual. It starts with you or the student, the assets you have, the context you know, the community knowledge you hold, and really starts with your questions. So how do we investigate these global issues, think about what they mean, understand them in a system, synthesize them together, and take action on them? And I think one of the things that is kind of a struggle with the SDGs is that they're so big, they're so wide, they're so lofty. So what we do is really think about how do we take those big global goals and shrink them down to something that feels relevant. What do we know about this in our community already, locally? How do we investigate it in our community? How do we make decisions and then take actions that work for our community? But then we don't leave it there. We can understand how our local actions and, Khadijah's local actions and somebody else's local actions all over the world are coming together to really create collective action on these important issues. And along the way, we believe that what we're trying to do is really help young people make that transformation we've been talking about, make that transformation into problem solving, where they can see that sense of agency. I can do something about this problem, where they can reflect and sort of iterate. This idea in engineering that you may not have the right idea to begin with. You have to learn from each other. You have to change your mind. You have to think about things in a different way. The relationships. How do we solve these problems, thinking about how they relate to other problems, but also how we relate to each other and how they're interconnected. And then this idea of equity and justice. How do we make sure that we're solving problems in a way that will really benefit everyone so that we can move towards that shared transformative future? And with that, I am going to be quiet for a little bit and hand it over to my amazing colleague, Khadijah.
Thank you so much, Heidi, for this wonderful overview of our project and program. So in the second half of our session, I get to do what I always think is the dessert of global goals. I'll go a little bit into our pedagogical approach and how we're creating the shifts we hope to see in students and communities, and showcase my favorite piece of this project, which is the phenomenal student work we receive when students engage in some of these activities in their communities. So, Heidi gave the overview of this Global Goals Action Progression. And this progression is really how we support students to make that transition from ideas about the future. So, I want a future with clean water, or I want a future with healthy foods, to action taking to co create that future. So, I want a future with clean water, and I understand our sources of water pollution. So, I'm creating a filtration device, or I want healthy, nutritious foods in my school, and now I am creating a school garden that helps us do farm to table. So it's really helping make those types of shifts. And we do it in 3 different steps. So we start off with a discovery activity. And this is that relevance piece that Heidi mentioned, really making problems feel authentic and connected. And I think many of us have worked with students. We can't just say this is an authentic problem. We have to really help them see themselves in this issue, see the community in this issue, and see their ability to create change. Once we've connected students and communities to the problem, we shift to an understand activity. And that's where we really transform the community into a research laboratory using no cost and low cost activities. I always say global goals is everything I had under my kitchen sink. So it's really accessible materials that help you do real science investigations in your community and create change. So once they've turned their community into a laboratory, they've connected the issues. Finally, they use what they've learned to take action. So I have given many tests to my students, and it's one thing to use what you've learned to get an A plus. But when students are able to use what they've learned to create a presentation to teach a sibling or to like transform a local beach, it really cements that learning and their ability to see themselves as agents of change. So I'm excited to dig a little deeper into each part of this progression and showcase a little work that's come from it. So it's not enough to solve a problem. We first discover why they are relevant. Some of the ways that we go about supporting youth to localize global issues or to really think about their why for engineering a solution are through these discovery activities that help them connect their local context to large, complex global issues. Sometimes it's personal connection. So we might do an identity map and think about how you personally connect to an issue. It could be observations or assessments of your community, mapping your community. And very importantly, we support students to understand community perspectives. So give a survey, do an interview. The people around you have a wealth of knowledge, and bringing that into the experience really connects students and helps them see that them, their parents, their grandparents, their friends all have this transformative power to create a sustainable future. So, the activity that I'm going to highlight as one of our discovery activities is identity mapping. And all of our guides begin with an identity map. And as I mentioned, I use global goals in the classroom when I was a middle school teacher. And after I identity mapped once with my students, I was like, okay, our science journals have to start with an identity map now. It really helped them recognize that everything that they were interested in and everything they did both in school and at home was a part of the solutions they'd engineer in science class. And that really is the foundation of our asset based approach to science education. When we say making problems relevant, I could think pollution is relevant to me because I have seen pollution in my community. That's only one part of relevance. Identity mapping helps them see that they're also relevant because I might have the answers to this problem. I am a part of the solution myself. So, the example we have on the screen is a student that did their identity map as a part of the upcoming innovation guide and thought deeply about how different parts of their identity make them innovative. And when a team compares, they'll see that throughout our team, there are many things that we all are bringing to this innovative process that aren't all the same things. And things that we don't always think of when we're in science class. So I strive to help others, or I like making friends. Those are a part of getting an idea engineered and bringing it out into a community. Once we've connected ourselves and our communities, we get to shift to the understand section. And that's where we understand a problem is relevant, but we start to really delve into a process for solving it and not just the recognition of a problem, but really starting to highlight the potential solutions and our ability to create those solutions. So, in our understand investigations, students are really thinking about both the underlying science and social science of complex global issues and starting to figure out that how of engineering a solution. So, sometimes this is through data collection or analysis, but we still fold in those aspects of the community. When I'm engineering any solution, it's really important to understand if this is a solution my community wants. If I engineer something no one wants to use, my innovation may never reach the people I need it to reach. They're also investigating engineering criteria and constraints. There are many things we could engineer in the world, but they're finding out what's going to solve our problem and how can we solve our problem using what we have access to in our community. And they're also prototyping and testing some of their engineered solutions. One of my favorite things about global goals activities is that it is this transdisciplinary experience. And it often brings the experiences within the science class closer to my students' experiences within their communities because communities are transdisciplinary. So when we're thinking about an issue, we're starting with maybe the nitty gritty natural science of it. And but we're also thinking about the social science of that issue. We're connecting it to art, we're connecting it to history, and we're connecting it to culture so that when students go into their communities, they're able to take in every aspect and facet of their community and see it as important for constructing a solution and recognizing that there's not one discipline that can solve all of our complex issues, but that real solutions lie in bringing in the best of all of the disciplines and all of the funds of knowledge around us and leveraging those ideas together to create something that will make change. Throughout our guides, we also, as Heidi mentioned, understand and truly believe that engineering is going to be a vital part of a sustainable future. So we've pulled a few example activities from guides across the suite, whether it is in our Zero Barriers guide, engineering assistive technology, or maybe they're in another guide, engineering sustainable materials, so sustainable plastics, sustainable bricks. We're thinking about resilient housing and architectural engineering. We're thinking about nature-based solutions and how we're engineering within biological systems. They are tinkering and making and thinking about like the electrical and mechanical components of the things they engineer. And also recognizing that engineering happens on these wide, large scales, but also these very microscopic scales, and thinking about elements of genetic engineering and how that is also going to be a very relevant type of engineering in our future. So I have highlighted on the next slide three guides within our suite that really emphasize technology and engineering. As I said, it's a part of every guide within the suite. But these three, I think, showcase three ways in which we scaffold students towards engineering a sustainable future. A guide like our biotechnology guide really helps students grapple with sustainable applications of new technologies that are being relevant to the world. So they're thinking about, okay, we have this new ability to engineer on this microscopic level. How are we applying that to food? How are we applying it to security? How are we applying it to environments? And thinking about holistically how we can take these innovations into different areas of our community to get that shared future we've ideated and thought about. In our Zero Barriers guide, we really are focusing on engineering to solve different aspects of a specific problem. So, accessibility within a community and thinking about, okay, I could engineer the structures in my community, or maybe I'm engineering a single bespoke device, or maybe I'm doing some web engineering and I'm doing engineering within digital spaces. And then finally, highlighting the upcoming innovation guide, which is to helping students think about engineering as a process. So, how can I get exactly from this idea about a sustainable climate future all the way, every step of this innovative process to an action that helps me create something that I think will be a part of that future? So, the student work I'm going to highlight actually is coming from the innovation guide. And what I think is really meaningful about the student work in these understand activities is you begin to see how they've taken both the scientific and social science of their community to create a device that they think they can really produce and has real change. So, the examples we have on the screen are two students' climate innovations. The solution on the right, I think, is very interesting that they've taken in the social patterns of where people in their community are walking. Where's the foot traffic in my community? And how do I combine my knowledge of that social pattern with my knowledge of a sensor and electrical mechanical parts and how a battery can store energy so that I am putting both of those together in a solution for a sustainable energy future. I also think the text might be a little bit too small to read on the example on the left, but I'll give a summary. And what I really wanted to highlight here, they've drawn a beautiful schematic, they've gotten in digital elements, they know that there should be an app for reminding, right? So, kind of those social patterns of their community combined with this newfound agency. So, in this student reflection, they were like, actually, we worked together really well. And a lot of us had really relevant ideas. So you see the wheels turning of actually, maybe we should be in charge of engineering a sustainable future. Like they see the potential within themselves because they've been given this experience and a real chance to try. And I'll say every time we give these types of materials to students, they think of something I never would have thought of. And I'm like, I am so excited to leave the future in your hands. You're creative, you're innovative, and you're excited about the challenge. So we've had a chance to discover, we've had a chance to understand, and then we always leave off in this final component of action taking. We individually and collectively support actions for a shared future and our shared transformative future. Throughout our guide, the action taking activities really start students with creating an action plan and understanding words like consensus, right? How do you as a team come up with an action that allows everyone to bring in their funds of knowledge, their skills, their interests? And make the kinds of changes they want to see in their community. It doesn't happen by accident. And these types of activities put students in that routine of really collaborating to plan for the future together and creating plans that represent everyone's desires for that future. Then they think about mitigating unintended consequences. So before we even put our designs out into our community, we understand that oftentimes people intend to help, but the world is complex and systems are connected. So, how do we make sure that when we're helping with this one cause, we're not inadvertently creating a consequence somewhere else? So, I've created this device to filter water, but does it consume a ton of energy? Is it possible that maybe I is there a way to collect solar energy to be a part of that device? How do I ensure that I'm holistically thinking about the future? Finally, action taking, giving students the permission and time and saying, go into your community and work towards this action. It might take a day, it might take a week, it might take a month, right? But do what you need to do to put your actions out into the world and then come back to this guide. And don't think that once you've put it into the world, everything's fine. Taking the action is like one of the funnest parts, but you get to come back and you get to monitor that intervention and iterate on their ideas. No action or invention is going to be perfect at any point. So, putting students in this routine of, I am creating incremental change and I am not finding the one solution that will change everything. I'm just doing a routine of making everything a little bit better every chance I get. So, the student example we wanted to leave you all with comes from one of our youth programs. So, within our center, we do programs that allow youth, teachers, and upcoming scientists to really engage with the work of Smithsonian Science for Global Goals. This presentation is just a little snippet from a longer 7-minute presentation from students that engaged in the climate action guide. And you'll be able to see just a little bit of their discovery, a little bit of their understanding, and how they translated that into action through their presentation.
Through CARP 2025, we are raising awareness about how climate change is affecting drinking water, especially through trash contamination. Trash pollutants are infiltrating our water systems, and according to the Smithsonian Climate Action Guide, human actions in one part of the system, like throwing away trash, can create ripple effects, often leading to unintended consequences. For instance, runoff, microplastics, harmful chemicals, and algal blooms are all contaminating drinking water, which threatens both water quality and public health.
Solutions. So, what's a solution? There are two main strategies. One, mitigation, removing pollution from the water. And two, prevention, stopping trash and chemicals from getting into drinking water in the first place. The Smithsonian Climate Action Guide encourages local action based on scientific understanding and what works best in your own community.
In order to prevent trash contamination, here's what we're doing to help. Our first idea is to host multiple meetings in order to raise awareness at libraries and centers in our communities. This is to make sure that everyone in our community understands how serious the issue of water contamination is. Our second idea that we're trying to implement is emailing our school district and planning to present at the next district-wide meeting to raise awareness about water contamination in younger generations. Our final idea is starting an environmental club at our schools so that even after we graduate, the work to prevent climate change and water pollution continues.
All right, so it's just a little snippet of one student project and one action, but it's been amazing what students have been able to think of, whether it's a technological invention or I want to start a club for sustained effort and sustained growth. Students, once given the tools and honestly permission, once we say, no, we really believe you can make change, like we're not saying it as a joke, we truly trust in what you're able to accomplish. They take the ropes and run and have just this wealth of ideas and motivations towards creating the type of world they really know should exist. So now I'll hand it back over to Heidi as we think about how we all will support youth in engineering a sustainable future.
Thank you, Khadijah. And I completely agree. It is truly inspiring to see how students take the opportunity to really understand an issue and get to action taking. And I do think through that process, they build that problem solving skill, which helps them basically in everything. So I do want to encourage you at this point to put whatever questions you have in the chat. I'm going to talk for just another few minutes, but then we would love to turn this into a collaborative discussion because we really want to think, could these guys or could something else we do together help us all support youth in engineering that sustainable future that we're all really trying to get to? So, sorry. I'm going to take us back to our horizon, our journey towards a shared future. I hope some of the things we've talked about today have helped you think about what your role as an engineer, as an educator, can be foundationally important in achieving that sort of shared sustainable vision that we've talked about, that we each have a role to play, the students we work with, the people on this call, and indeed everyone on this planet that we're together with. I hope we can look past those sort of boulders that we see and really look towards the future and have that be our goal and have that drive our efforts. So in just a minute, we're going to open up for questions. But in the meantime, I'm going to share a few ways about how you can sort of immediately get involved in us. I think Lynn put in the chat that we will be at the booth, the virtual booth on tomorrow. So do feel free to stop by and chat with us. We also have these guides coming up. And for these guides that are sort of new guides under development, we have both free professional development that we'd love to have you participate in. And also we do field testing. So for our agriculture guide, for our water guide, we work, well, with each of our guides, we work with classrooms around the world to sort of put these activities into practice before we share them with the public as a way of making sure that they really work and they work in different contexts. So our goal is to have something where the context is there and your job is to, the materials are there and your job is to add the context. The student's job is to add the context. What does this mean to us in our space, in our place, and really follow that pathway? So what water looks like right next to an ocean versus in the desert is different. And that's wonderful. Trying to create the opportunity to think about that context and this issue together, we think are really important. And so if you are interested in field testing, there's definitely an opportunity to do that. Similarly, as a center, we're really trying to understand what this looks like as we think about these sustainability mindsets and the way students are thinking. What does it look like as they change? How does that appear? So we have been developing an instrument, and we are in the process of validating it. If you work with high school students, we'd love to hear, and you would be interested in sort of sharing the survey with us and engaging in research, we'd love to hear from you as well. So this is an interest survey. Khadijah probably could even drop a link to it in the chat. But if you're interested, you can go on there and click to join our newsletter or learn about those professional development opportunities or field test or inform our sustainability education research. And at the same time, I'm wondering if anybody here has questions that they would like to hear from or things that we can clarify for you. Khadijah and I both love to talk. So please give us an opportunity to talk about what is most important for you. And I think I see this, which upcoming guide are you most personally excited for? That is a hard question, Allie. For me, whatever guide I'm currently working on is the one I'm most excited about. So right now I am deep into thinking about agriculture and sustainable agriculture, and I am over the moon about that topic. I think it is so foundational to the future, but Khadijah probably has a different answer.
I think it is also a little bit of the one right in front of you is often the one you're most excited about. I did just drop the link to the form in the chat. Sorry, I was getting it pulled up. But I would say zero barriers because it has some of our most like social and emotional learning aspects. So I think it's a really great balance for the suite as a whole. But it's like choosing your favorite kid or your favorite student. It changes every week as I'm like, oh, well, this one did something really cool. So it's a little bit of a balance.
Yeah, absolutely. How many students have been reached by this series of guides? Great question. As of, I think it's April, we had 8.1 million. So we're really excited, and we've been reaching students in several different ways. One is we work with teachers, and then those teachers, thank you all for celebrating. I am celebrating as well. Those students work with teachers. And to me, it's just exciting. Every student that uses this, every student that has the opportunity to really transform the way they view about the future and their ability to solve it seems really exciting. We also do some student programming. So really thinking about, having students come in and sort of watching them engage with it has been really helpful for us to understand what really speaks to them. And, as Khadijah was saying before, every time we see student work, we're just blown away by the creativity, the sort of the focus and the sort of intention of the students. I think it's really exciting. Khadijah, did you have anything you wanted to add? Okay. And do we look for students outside the, yes, we do, Lisa. So we work with students from all over the world, and those guides are available to anyone all over the world. And they're in fact designed to be available to people all over the world. So in our student programs, we have something called the Network for Emergent Socioscientific Thinking, which brings together researchers, educators, youth, academics, all together to kind of talk about what this looks like. How do we create this sort of change system? As part of that program, we have youth ambassadors, and they are found from all over the world. So we have, youth ambassadors from Latin America, we have youth ambassadors from Asia, we have youth ambassadors from Europe, and they're all participating. And that's true for any of the student programs that we run. So yes, anyone can participate. Sometimes the time zone can be a little challenging for students, but we absolutely are interested in doing that. And we also have teacher ambassador programs through that Network for Emergent Socioscientific Thinking. So we have teacher ambassadors. They're currently We have a program that goes for US teachers, and we have one for Latin American teachers that's only Spanish speaking as well.
And I would add to that, Heidi, what we've seen, especially when we're able to bring global youth together, is they start to recognize that, like, oh, maybe these problems are wide and it's not like just my community, or maybe I can borrow ideas from this other community of something they've done really well. So it really starts to build that sense of like global interconnectedness.
Absolutely. And I see a question here and another one in the chat that I'm going to combine, which was, can these programs be extended to the African regions? And I see Owen's question about involving Nigeria, but the problem with access to the internet. And I would say to both of those, absolutely. In terms of access to the internet, these guides are all on PDF. So someone at some point needs access to the internet, but you do not need ongoing access to the internet to use them. You can download them, you can print them, you can use them. Somebody could use them on a phone. We're really focused on how do we create an experience that is as accessible as possible. So you don't, if you want, there's multimedia extensions and everything else. And if you don't, you should be able to do these guides without having to go buy extra stuff, as Khadijah was saying, without having to, have constant connectivity. And Dr. Ezekiel, in terms of extending these programs, definitely these guides are available to anyone. And there is a huge desire to make sure that people in every region are participating in the programs, whether they're students, whether they're teachers, whether they're scientists. We've recently launched something we're calling Scientist Ambassadors, where scientists from around the world are going to be there as a resource for classrooms. And I see, can I share it with my other friends who are high school teachers? Any of these resources are free for anyone. So we want you to use them. We think that the future is basically the most important thing we're all collectively working on. So you let us know how we can support you in the role that you're going to take in the future. But all of those guides are there. We also have something called Starting with Sustainability lesson sets. If the guides seem a little bit too big, these are tiny things that you can use sort of right now in a classroom. And very happy to talk more about that if that's helpful. How can I connect? So yes, I would say definitely go fill out our interest survey and we'll like be in touch, or feel free to come by and talk with us tomorrow during the virtual booth. But in general, yes, our teacher programs are happening in both the US and Latin America. The student programs are really open globally. And then the guides are there. So at any point you could do it. The professional development programs are also open globally. So we would love to have you participate. They vary. Sometimes they're in an evening, sometimes they're during the day. It just depends on sort of the time of year and the guide. But our goal is to support you in doing the amazing work that you are doing every single day. Where do we find that beginner guide? Great question, Elizabeth. Let me see if I can pull that up for you. And I will pop that in the chat. We call them Starting with Sustainability lesson sets. I just put it in there. And we can mail them to you. We have some actual guides, at least within the US, we can mail them to you. But in terms of what those guides are, what we heard from teachers is we love these materials and it can be a bit tricky to sort of get started. And we said, okay, we hear you. So we're going to take some of the easier activities and we're going to create slides and we're going to create worksheets and we're going to create everything you need. So if you're like, I just want to try this out with 3 class periods with my classroom, you have all of that and you're ready to go. So if it's, the end of the year, right before a holiday, and you think, I don't want to do a lesson plan or something else, this is something that you could go into. So Elizabeth, yes, we can definitely put them in the resources. for this session. And then also I would say that, you know, we do have the virtual booth, and that has sort of all of our resources there. Other question? Okay. Well, I know that we're almost at time here, but personally, I just want to, you know, sort of like extend gratitude to all of you for not only being here, but like engaging and thinking about how this really works within your own space. I truly believe, like from the bottom of my heart, that a sustainable future is possible on this planet, but only if we all work together. So I am really inspired at the energy of people here bringing their expertise and their context in how they are going to be working towards that sustainable future. And Khadijah, I'll let you say a final few words.
I just echo the same. I'm reading the chat and it puts such a smile on my face. I see so many people like excited about the potential of transformative change. And I think it really starts with the excitement about it. So I would love to hear you fill out the interest form. We'd love to be able to connect. And if you use any of the work and want to share it with us, please, we love to see anything that people are doing within their classroom.
Okay, great to have you here. Thank you. It was a great presentation. So aligned to what we also are doing. So thank you. We're looking forward to collaboration in the future. Yeah, and as you obviously saw, the participants are so excited and so interactive. That's great. So we're honored that we had you here. Thank you so much. Um, and we're looking forward to more stuff in the future. Thank you.
It was our pleasure.